What's up guys, welcome back to Cars, Costs, and Technology. On today's video we're going to be reviewing this beast of a Z06, but before we get started I want to point out that today's review will be a little bit different than usual since I have already reviewed a C7 Z06 in the past. If you're here looking for a more traditional review of a stock C7 Corvette Z06, I'll put a card above and a link down in the description below where you can check out more information on that video. But for today's video we're going to focus more on the ownership experience and the performance of a modified Z06, as well as talk a little bit about where the current Z06 fits in the lineup as a whole. When last review that I did on a Z06, there was not a lot of information out about the C7 ZR1 at that time, so I want to readdress the significance of the Z06 and where it fits into the Corvette lineup, as well as why I think it's probably the best buy for the money right now. But anyway, let's take a moment to introduce this car. First of all, this belongs to a buddy of mine, David Thomas. I'm going to put a link to his Facebook down below. Definitely check out his page where you can see more photos and videos and information on this car, as well as follow along to all the different racing events that he takes it to. But as far as the car goes, it's a 2016 Corvette Z06. There's got a ton of different modifications made to it for all the different racing events that he takes the car to. Now, at the time of this recording, the car has 879 rear-wheel horsepower, as well as 1,005 pound-feet of torque on a 50 shot of nitrous. I'm going to cover some of the many performance enhancements that he's made on the car, including cooling upgrades for tracking the car, which he does really frequently. Both supercharger pulleys have been replaced for additional boost. He's got Cook's headers and cross pipes, cold air intake and K&N air filter, custom cam and tune on the car, as well as I mentioned before, the 50 shot of nitrous. So ton of improvements here to get more power out of the car, and it definitely shows. The power to weight ratio of this car makes the acceleration absolutely brutal, and I can safely say that this is the fastest car that I've ever driven. And I want to show you some of the numbers that he's been able to achieve on the drag strip to help you understand how fast this car is. Now keep in mind that all these times are with drag radials, not with slicks. Because he does daily drive the car pretty often, as well as take it on events like road course and autocross events, he doesn't want to compromise the overall handling and setup of the car by changing the rear brake rotors and going down to a smaller wheel to allow for drag slicks. So even with drag radials, he's been able to get a 6.5 second 8th mile time, and in the quarter mile a 10.26 at 138 miles per hour. So incredibly fast car, again, especially considering that's on drag radials, and could even be faster if they were to switch over to a smaller wheel and allow for a drag slick. Right now it's a very well-rounded package, and it performs great at the drag strip, on the track, and even in daily commuting, where obviously if you were to switch things up too much, tailor it for one specific application, you're going to lose some of that well-roundedness and functionality in those other categories. So I have a lot of respect for that, and the fact that this car is not just a one-trick pony. It can be great in so many different categories. So now that you know a little bit about the car, let's take a moment to appreciate the amazing sound of a cammed LT4. So as you can tell by that clip, this thing sounds really mean, and unfortunately the video doesn't even do it justice. In person it sounds much better and definitely louder. Now I do want to move on and talk about some of the other cool and interesting things about the car, and I want to start out with these black pinstripes that go along the entire car. Now in the daylight they look really good and they add some cool contrast to the body lines, but when they really stand out is at night. When the light hits them, you can see that they actually reflect and give off a gold reflection or color. It looks like a Tron theme, and it's really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen another Corvette wrapped like this, so this is a really cool design, and I wish that you guys could see this in person. It's definitely a cool and creative way to make the car stand out, and I really like how it has two completely different looks depending on whether you're looking at the car in the daylight or at nighttime. Now another thing that you probably noticed on the exterior of the car is going to be the rear badging. It's in the same font as the standard Corvette logo, but it actually says cocaine on the back. Now that's a nickname for the car because of obviously the Arctic white paint and the fact that the speed and power of the car is so addictive. And as we move along to the side of the car, I wanted to take a moment to explain these two large decals in the center of each door. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Optima Search for the Ultimate Street Car series, this is a really cool and interesting series of races that actually ranks the competitors on multiple different categories rather than just one specific type of racing. So in order to win or excel in this series, you have to have a very well-rounded car rather than a purpose-built race car for one specific use. So just to give you an example, there's 5 different key segments to each event that you have to excel at. Number 1 would be design and engineering, which measures the overall build quality of the car, car, the appearance of the modifications, the functionality of the car, the daily drivability. Then you've got the road rally, which means you actually have to take the car on a rally and obey street rules and laws with other cars for up to 25 to 100 miles. So the car obviously has to be safe and reliable, as well as street legal in order to compete in this part of the event. Then you've got more traditional forms of racing like autocross, you've got the road course, then you've got speed stop, which all measure the handling and the capabilities of the car, as well as the abilities of the driver. So I think this is a really cool series that pushes the car and the driver to the limits and tests more than just one specific function or ability of the car. I thought it was really interesting that in the GTS class, which this car competes in, over 50% of the competitors have some type of Corvette, which to me is really a testament of just how well-rounded the Corvette is and does well in so many different areas. And just to emphasize the overall practicality and reliability of this car, especially in relation to this series, this car was actually taken on a 6,000-mile round trip to compete in 2 different Optima events. The owner started out in South Carolina and made his way all the way to New Jersey for the first, and then all the way to California for the next weekend's event. And then on the way back home, stopped in Arizona for a performance driving school, then stopped in Atlanta, Georgia for an event that one of his sponsors was holding, then back to South Carolina. And the only thing that happened to the car during that entire period was it needed a new supercharger belt while in New Jersey. Luckily, a local dealership was able to change that out the same day, and he was back on the road for the event in California. But that's pretty incredible to think that a car with well over 800 horsepower, definitely tuned and set up more for a race application, is able to commute that kind of distance safely and perform at a high level at each one of those events. So I don't think that there's many cars out there that can do that, guys. And again, such a testament to what the Corvette and the Corvette Z06 in particular is able to do in terms of performance, reliability, and dependability. So now that we've talked about some of the background story of the car and covered a few things that make it so special, I wanted to take a moment to share some of my key takeaways after driving it. Now I'm going to try to summarize my thoughts into 3 main categories that stood out to me most. That's going to be the power, the sound, and the stance. Now obviously with this being a Z06, this is a very fast and powerful car straight off the showroom floor, but these engine modifications have definitely taken it to the next level. I can say after reviewing a stock C7 Z06 last summer versus this car, this is so much faster, and it's hard to even imagine a Z06 being faster than it already is. This is an incredibly fast car and definitely pushing the limits of what a rear-wheel drive car on street tires is able to put down to the ground safely, and by far the fastest car that I've ever driven. But I will also note that it was tame enough to drive around town comfortably without a single issue. So I definitely have a lot of respect for the versatility of a car like this to perform so well on the track, but also offer comfort and reliability for driving around town for daily use. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next category that I mentioned. That's going to be the sound of the car. As you all have heard from the clips that have played throughout this video, I don't need to say much in this category. They really speak for themselves. This car sounds so good with the Cook's headers and off-road crosspipe, as well as the aftermarket cam. It's a really unique and aggressive sound. It definitely adds a lot to the driving experience, especially since the fuse has been pulled in the active exhaust valves, so it's open all the time. No matter what RPM range you're in, you're getting the full sound at all times, and like I said, adds a lot to the driving experience. Definitely made this review very enjoyable. And now for the third and final category that I want to discuss, is going to be the stance of the car. Now by stance, I don't necessarily just mean the ride height or the overall appearance of the car, but more so the wider wheels, tires, wider body, and this would also include the magnetic ride suspension, but just the overall ability for the car to hug the road and be so much more comfortable and planted on the ground. You'd be surprised when compared to my Corvette Stingray how much better this feels. Like it grips the road and hangs on. It's so much more confidence inspiring in the turns, as well as actually more comfortable on the straight. And for any of you that may be thinking that the C7 Z06 is no longer on the cutting edge of handling technology just because it's going into its 5th model year of production, I want to point out that the 2019 Corvette ZR1 actually uses a very similar overall setup, including the same magnetic ride control suspension technology. GM actually recently released some new performance suspension calibrations available for the Z06 and any other Corvettes equipped with the magnetic ride control suspension, and the updates are said to have had a huge impact on the overall capabilities and handling of the car, especially on the track. When you look at what GM was able to achieve when they took a manual C7 Z06 with these updates out to VIR for testing, the car was actually able to achieve a lap time faster than the Dodge Viper ACR and only just over a second off the lap time of a Ford GT. and actually 2.5 seconds off the lap time of a C7 ZR1. When you consider the huge price difference between those cars and a Z06, that's really impressive, and that leads you to believe that this car can still hang with really the best in the world when it comes to handling. And obviously we already know straight line performance is going to be there. So as a whole, just a great well-rounded package. Now, to kind of wrap things up and summarize my thoughts on not only this modified Z06, but obviously we talked a lot about the stock standard Z06 as well. It's just an incredible overall car, and I think that this platform still offers so much even now in 2018. If you're looking for any type of sports car or supercar, you cannot overlook what the Z06 has to offer. I think that it's just an incredible overall value. With all the hype around the C7 ZR1 and the rumors of the C8 mid-engine Corvette coming out, I think that the Z06 is really downplayed at this time, and there's incredible prices to be had on these cars. So again, I can't say enough how much I feel like this is a great value for any potential buyers at this point in time. But I want to say a huge thanks to David and Karen Thomas for allowing me to review this amazing car. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys check out their Facebook pages at the links down below in the description. And for any of you that are new to the channel, definitely consider giving this video a like if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing for more reviews like this. And I really do appreciate each and every one of you for watching. Thanks everyone. I hope that you have a great day. We'll talk to you next time.